Hello lovelies, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be talking about Veronica Lake and the story behind her and what really happened to her. She was a huge star in the 1940s and then she just kind of vanished after that. So we're going to dive into that. So Veronica Lake was one of the most beautiful visions of 1940s films with her peekaboo hairstyle, and she was an iconic image of old Hollywood film noirs. Some of her most popular films of the time included This Gun for Hire, The Hour Before Dawn, Hold That Blonde, and Out of This World, among many others. Veronica was a big screen name in the 1940s, and her success in acting seemed unstoppable. By the early 1950s, however, Lake's career had hit the skids. Still suffering from schizophrenia and in a state of paranoia, she turned to drinking heavily to relieve herself from the burden. This only added to her deteriorating mental state, and with the stress of 3 broken marriages, a domineering stage mother, and a manic depressive personality, and a self-destructive addiction to liquor, she pushed herself over the edge. After 1952, she would make only 2 more films, both grade B horror flicks. The beautiful superstar with a peekaboo hairdo, who entertained and inspired so many, never received the professional help which would have saved her from the mental suffering, and she would endure it alone. She eventually frequented cheap hotels in New York City and worked as a bartender, where she obtained a steady supply of booze. She never revealed her true identity, and even her co-workers were in the dark about her glamorous past. By the late 1960s, she had reached rock bottom, holing up in her apartment out of paranoid fears that the FBI was following her and tapping her phone. Those who knew her in the 60s said that the once great beauty had turned into a worn-out mess, with rotting teeth, unwashed hair, and the pasty complexion of a bloated alcoholic. Saranac Lake native James Quigley recalls an encounter with her while she was working at a popular New York City bar at 5th Avenue in the 60s. He introduced himself as a Saranac Laker, and Veronica seemed happy to meet someone from her old hometown. Jim said, "I went to the bar at 5th Avenue, a very chic and popular bar for New Yorkers. Veronica was tending the bar, and when I told her I was from Saranac Lake, she cried, kissed me, and continued her work." What a moment. In the early 70s, Veronica made a brief return to the spotlight with the publication of her autobiography, which earned her enough cash to relocate to the British Isles. She married for a 4th time to an English sea captain, a commercial fisherman known as Captain Bob, but that soon ended in divorce. Early 1973, she returned to the States. According to the doctors who treated her, she was already pretty far along with an acute case of hepatitis, and she was not long in Saranac Lake before she admitted to Will Rogers Hospital. According to her doctor in Vermont, in Saranac Lake, they did not have the resources to treat her, as well as the medical center in Burlington, so on June 26, 1973, she was transferred to Fletcher Allen Hospital. Her presence in the hospital was not publicized because, according to her publicist, "Frankly, I didn't think she was going to die." He was not aware of the extreme state of her medical condition. According to Dr. Beacon, persisted for some time before she was entered into the hospital, and her condition had deteriorated rapidly. Word of her true identity quickly spread throughout the facility, and the hospital staff visited her room to pay their respects. She visibly brightened due to the tension, signing autographs for the nurses and speaking confidently of future plans. According to one nurse who attended her in the final days, she was very cheerful and friendly, happy-looking, and forward to the future, and still retained a shadow of her former beauty. Yet she was also utterly and completely alone, with no guests or phone calls, a sad state for someone so well known. Dr. Beacon looked into her one last time on the evening of July 6th, when acute renal failure had set in. Early on the morning of July 7th, 1973, Veronica Lake passed away alone and forgotten at age 50. After hearing of his mother's death, her son Michael, who lived in Hawaii, asked his father, Lake's 3rd ex-husband, Andre de Toth, for money to fly to Vermont, but his request was denied. Michael had to take a loan out to fly to Vermont to claim the body from the funeral home, located near the hospital. She was then cremated, but her ashes were stored at the funeral home until payment could be made. Her sparsely attended Manhattan memorial service was paid for by a friend, veteran ghostwriter Donald Bain. Not even her ashes made the event, as they were still stored at the funeral home in squabble over money. Her ashes remained there until March 1976, when two friends volunteered to bring Lake's ashes to Florida. Bain sent the funeral home $200 to cover the back storage fees, and the ashes were shipped to Park Avenue's residence of a friend, William Roos. Roos and Dick Poman supposedly took the ashes south for their ceremony deposit in the water off Miami, but it appears that this isn't the end of the story. It is claimed that the ashes somehow found their way to a curio shop in the Catskills, a place called Langley's Mystery Shop in New York. Even in death, Veronica Lake did not get the respect and recognition she deserved. It was a shame and a tragedy. In a recently republished memoir titled Veronica, the Autobiography of Veronica Lake, the actress insisted she turned her back on Hollywood. She says, "I had to get out," the star wrote, as reportedly by the outlet. "I was never psychologically meant to be a picture star." And Turner Classic Movie host Eddie Muller, who wrote a new introduction in Lake's 1969 book, also told the outlet that she felt trapped by being depicted as a femme fatale in films. She had a very aggressive stage mother who pushed her towards show business against her will. She was naturally rebellious. She got tired of people expecting her to fit into a box, and as a result, she resorted to alcohol to cope. She was behaving in a way a lot of men did, and they got a pass. Drinking and showing up hungover was part of Humphrey Bogart's legend. In her book, Lake shared she made the decision to leave Hollywood in 1952. "I said, 'The hell with you, Hollywood,'" she wrote. "I've never been back." According to the outlet, in 1962, Lake was working as a cocktail waitress in New York City, and people felt very sorry for her, she wrote. "But I really enjoyed the job. I seem to have found peace. Spare me the high pressures of success, I've been there." Lake found out as a child that she had schizophrenia, and it was Lake's mother who enrolled her in acting school as therapy. She was soon discovered by film agents and eventually adopted the screen name Veronica Lake. Despite starring in notable films, Lake's career had faded by the time she was 30. And there's a recently published book called Hollywood Secrets and Scandals, which details Veronica Lake's many interviews. She says, "My picture of her was a gorgeous screen siren with the beautiful blonde hair covering one eye. But there in front of me sat a woman who looked like a cleaning lady. I was really startled. I instantly knew here was someone who was probably struggling financially. You could see she was very damaged." Lake allegedly turned to alcohol during the height of her fame to relieve herself from the symptoms of schizophrenia. Cameron claimed that Lake appeared to be in her 70s when she was 47, and by then she had already been through several failed marriages. By the 1960s, Lake had bitter memories about her time as one of Hollywood's reigning stars. She says, "I hated Hollywood. I wasn't a person, I was a commodity. I was being suffocated here and I had to get out." And Veronica Lake was really hesitant to do this interview for the book, and she says that she was afraid that no one would remember her, and she said, "Sometimes I wonder if anyone remembers me." The day that she was getting a star on the Walk of Fame, she asked me to go with her. I said, "Of course." I had no idea there wouldn't be anyone there. And there was not one person there. Today there are busloads of people that show up. It's insane. And here was one of the most extraordinary movie stars of the 1940s standing alone on Hollywood Boulevard with me and Carrie Owens. There was no microphone. There was nothing. It was just three people. I was devastated for her. Just devastated. It was really stunning experience. I could see that she recognized that what was happening. She put on a brave face. She tried to smile through it, but you could see that she was just trying to get through it. She wanted to get it over with, and she couldn't wait to leave. She literally left town as soon as the picture was taken. Before Lake left Hollywood for good, she said she hoped their meeting wouldn't be the last. She says, "I know it was a mistake for me to come back to Hollywood." And the lady that interviewed her said that she thought it was a mistake that Veronica Lake came back to Hollywood, and she said that she would have been better off staying where she was. She looked very haggard. She looked like she had been drunk for years, but she wasn't drinking that day. It's possible, and this is just a speculation, that she was sober. And wherever she was living, she might have felt safe, but then she went off and dipped her toe again in Hollywood and got screwed over again once again with nobody there. I've been to so many star unveilings. Hers was really the only one where there was just no people. It was strange. Apparently, Veronica Lake was also not very nice on set. She yelled at people, yelled at her co-stars, and that's why she was eventually thrown out of Hollywood. Alcoholics seem to have a self-destructive button, and the many good things that happen to them, they tend to blow it up. I think she did it deliberately without even knowing. So before I did this video, I really didn't know much about Veronica Lake. I knew that she was such an inspiration in old Hollywood, especially her peekaboo hairstyle, and just her look is still very iconic today. And it's just so sad to hear about what happened to her and that she had basically untreated schizophrenia. And it's just sad to think that she was alone like that. It's just such a tragic and sad old Hollywood story. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you want me to talk about any other old Hollywood movie stars. Alright, I'll see you guys again soon. Bye!